Hi, Kamil.
Hi, Wojtek.
Today's topic is choosing the right display for medical devices. Could you please introduce how important are displays in today's medicine and medical devices?
Medical is a huge topic in general, and also for Riverdi because we have many medical customers, and we really understand what this kind of industry needs. But first of all, yes, display in medical devices is very important because it's showing all the conditions typically of the patient or the process around, because it's not necessarily life critical. Maybe device could be like some supporting, let's say an infusion pump, this kind of a device, but still we would like to know exactly what is happening. But also from the other point of view, display typically is today also an input device. So actually when we say display, we think about showing some numbers or like charts to the user, but actually it's also the input device, so it's both. And that's why from this point of view, choosing the right display is really critical in medical application, to have not only the perfect display from like optical point of view to view it from the angles or with the good contrast, but also in terms of reliability. Yes, you want your display to always work.
Yeah, because by input you mean like medical personnel interacting with the device.
Yes. You need
Alright.
to like set it, switch it off, on, whatever.
We have touched a little bit on some applications, but could you please give us some examples? Where are those displays used in what devices?
If you go to the modern hospital, you will see that there is like plenty of displays. Even around the single patient, it could be like many. So actually there are many applications in the medical field.
Not only the heart rate,
Not
heartbeat
only
rate.
yes, heartbeat is like the example used
school,
in the movies, but there are many other devices right now, and all of them are equipped with the displays. That's a huge, let's say, market.
Yeah, so we have monitoring systems, some diagnostic equipment, and also probably some handheld medical.
Right.
Yeah. I imagine that medical devices have strict requirements.
Yes, actually, all medical devices, life or non-life critical, they need to pass a certain level of certification. Most importantly, or like the entry level is electrostatic discharge. So they need to work with the higher voltage than the industrial.
What do you
displays.
mean by electric?
Electrostatic discharge? It's a discharge. Typically, the human can charge his body, her body, just moving around, and we are like a capacitor. So once we are charged, we can be charged to the high voltages, like 10 kilovolt or more. And because we are kind of capacitor, we have this energy stored between us and the ground. And when we touch some device, everybody experience that for sure. That sometimes when we touch the metal parts, or like we try to open the door, etc. Yes, there is like a small spark in between our finger, and then it, of course we feel it. It's unpleasant, but it's also quite damaging for electronic, and especially for like sensitive electronic. And when we talk about capacitive touchscreen, it's super sensitive, yes? Because we are trying to sense the finger on the glass, which are very weak signals. So we need to like amplify the signal strongly, and then there is a spark, high voltage, very strong signal that may destroy internal parts of the touchscreen.
So we want to avoid situation when we burn
exactly.
the device, which is during some operation room.
That would be terrible. If you will choose just a common display from the market that could use consumer grade sensor and capacitive touch controller, probably it won't be immune enough to work in this kind of environment, and may be destroyed or like blocked. We require a reset of the device, or it will be just burned. In Riverdi, we only use industrial grade controllers, and we also have industrial grade, medical grade. In this case, design of the sensor. We can actually guide the spark, so the voltage from the human body to the ground without damaging the touch screen or touch controller itself. But this requires special design.
We have it covered. Are there any more certificates that concern medical devices?
So this is like general ESD, so electrostatic discharge. We need to pass 15 kilovolts of air discharge and 8 kilovolt of conducted discharge. but others are more related to the specific devices. Yes, some of them, for example, require to be immune for the chemicals that you may clean the surface. Yes? But if you use a glass on top and proper sealing, then probably you are good. And of course, you cannot emit too many noises. Yes, so we take our displays always to the electromagnetic chamber, and we test them in terms of how much of electromagnetic field they let's say emit.
Because
And
you mean
they need to be lower.
in total all the devices in the operations room, for example, are
Influencing each other.
influencing
Yeah.
each other in a sort of a buzz, or there
Exactly.
could be some errors in
Yes, exactly. Yeah, all of that need to be on certain levels. We need to be immune, but we cannot emit. So that's a special design, like mechanical design, but also electrical design, firmware design. There are many factors that will allow to build this display that could be used in a medical device.
Okay. One more question regarding the requirements, hygiene and disinfection. You mentioned cleaning. Is there anything that this kind of display has to comply with?
Hygiene, in terms of what do you mean exactly? Yes, if you will clean it, often enough, then it will be hygiene and clean. But maybe you are thinking about some antibacterial surfaces, the coating.
Yeah.
Yes, so we can add this kind of coating to the surface, and basically it's killing the bacteria. We have several options. We work with many partners that manufacture this kind of coating, and we can add it to the glass. Yes, if it's necessary to have the antibacterial coating, we can basically do it. But another issue maybe with related to that is proper sealing and gaskets. Yes? So if we know that we will use certain chemicals to clean, then we need to also plan and use the right sealing. So
it
will
won't
be
leak.
a glue
Yeah.
or like some kind of rubber or a gasket, like foam gasket. But we need to know this when we design to use the proper material, so it won't fall off maybe or just dissolve in alcohol or something like that.
Okay, speaking of hygiene, wearing proper nitrile gloves would be necessary in those kind of circumstances in medical environment. How do you cope with that in this place?
Yes, again, we use a special design of the sensor and touch controller, and we can easily work with the medical gloves, which are typically thin. And knowing that it's a medical device, we are tuning firmware with this kind of gloves in our laboratory. So the touch become very sensitive even with the gloves. Yes, typically we put more than one layer, so we are sure that our touch will work even with a little bit thicker gloves later is during the normal operation. So that's another important factor.
Maybe we can move to technologies, display
sure.
technologies. Can you describe which one, I mean, like LCD or OLED, which one would be the best for medical?
Technology here, like image technology, will be more related to what you would like to display. I would say the most common and universal is a TFT LCD display. OLEDs, yes, depend. Do you mean like passive OLED? Then probably it will be small size. It is very good display. If you want to show some numbers or like a little bit information on like a heart rate or something like that on a small display, then OLED could be good choice. But in most cases, if you want larger display, let's say a few inches and larger, then TFT will be the best.
Okay. And how about image quality and resolution? I imagine that in medical environment, when you need to have precise readings, it is crucial a factor.
So in medical, we distinguish two ways or like two kinds of devices. So one is information display, so a heart rate or like infusion pump, and then we see and we can set the device how it should work. So typically we read some numbers, maybe we want to see some chart. But the other kind of devices, it's imaging. Then we want to see the image of some organs, and then there is this approach that the colors need to be reproduced very well and the contrast, etc. But it's a different set of displays. So mostly what we do is information display, measuring the displays that we have by standard in our offer. If you need displays for image, then there is like a different approach. So then please contact us, and we will select the right TFT glass and the backlight, etc. It's a little bit different construction.
get it. So for X-ray imaging,
Yes.
you need some other.
Then it's super important to show all the shadows or the grays.
Okay. And how about screen readability in a situation that you, I imagine, in operations room, you need to have all the viewing angles covered. Could you please expand maybe or tell us about interface design in such devices?
So in terms of readability, we have at least two factors here. First will be the viewing angles that you mentioned already. So we solve it by using IPS technology. You are able to clearly see the display from all the sides and actually up to 178 degrees or 79 even in some cases. So pretty much from like really the side you will be able to read it. But another is a contrast. So we use high contrast displays. And what is related here, the effective contrast actually will be calculated from contrast of the display itself, but also from the brightness. And in typical medical environment, it could be operation room, of course, but could be also the regular room, patient room. There could be a lot of light, and a lot of light require high brightness display. That's why our Riverdi displays, they are perfect fit for most of the medical displays because we have 1000 candela. So even if this in this bright environment, we still can hold to the high contrast, and then readability is very high.
Well, it seems that the medical environment requires really high-end solutions in terms of parameters and certification. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.